Howdy gamers, it is I, Jaffe. Recently I purchased a game that I now cannot stop thinking about. It's a bite-sized indie horror game that's a real quick playthrough, but there's a lot of love and attention to detail. I've known about this game for almost a year now. I'm obviously talking about Crow Country. I really love playing through this game. I even did so several times. That's not something I normally do. I almost never replay through a game. I played through it so many times because you're able to do a playthrough in one sitting quite easily, especially if you've already done your first playthrough. But what makes Crow Country so special, you might ask? Well, I don't know, maybe it's the banger soundtrack, or the classic PlayStation vibe that was executed amazingly, or the well-designed characters, or maybe it was the suspenseful plot. A little bit of everything, I'd say. I'm warning you now that spoilers will be ahead, so I suggest that you close the video if you want to experience the game for yourself. First, I'd like to dive into the unique gameplay elements that Crow Country has. I love the classic PlayStation feel of the game, but it had comfortable controls. What I mean by this is that there is camera manipulation, which was a feature in this game that is not in classic PlayStation games. Most classic PlayStation games, the camera will be held at an angle and you just traverse. You can't pan it at all, but it's possible in Crow Country to pan and see the beautiful graphics. They're not advanced, but I think it was very pretty looking. And I wish that games like Metal Gear, you could pan the camera around. That'd be a quite awesome feature, like the original Metal Gear I'm referring to. Promise you, I'll get back to Metal Gear later in this video. One thing that was super helpful on my first playthrough was the hint system. It's a limited resource that you can only use 10 times throughout an entire run. If you're playing the hardest difficulty, Murder of Crows, the feature gets taken away. Basically, a giant crow is giving you hints inside a cylindrical glass. And in Murder of Crows, the glass is shattered. Seems like the crow escaped. The cat's out of the bag. Also, in Murder of Crows, the main character Mara won't dig through the trash for extra resources because she's just not sticking her hand down there. And also the vending machines are out of order, which I saw this as good attention to detail. And also the zombies I'm going to refer to as the guests. That's what they're called in this game. And there's a lot of variety in the guests. A lot of different creatures, which kept the gameplay quite diverse, and also the traps that are spread out throughout the game are pretty well diversified. One thing I loved was in the second playthrough of Crow Country, you can now break these glass crows scattered around the map after you beat the game. Once you do that, you unlock a cosmetic called Zap Girl. She is seen in the arcade. You can see a poster of Zap Girl, and I think it's an awesome outfit, especially in game. You get an alien blaster, it's just amazing. Another cosmetic I liked was the running shoes, which is a secret that you find. If you had the silver key, you would find it early game, but silver key is something that you get quite late into the game, to be honest, but you get much faster if you find those. Even though this game is a 2024 title, it just feels so nostalgic. Also, it's a very cute game, even though it's a survival horror. It reminds me a lot of the original Resident Evil, but you don't have that annoying inventory limiting you. You can pick up everything in the game. Aside from, once you have a certain amount of excess resources, then that's when it cuts you off, but you can pick up all the resources in the game. You just can't stack so many on top of each other. Also, the health system is kind of similar to Resident Evil. It gets a heart rate monitor, as you see in those games. You're not using plants, though, to heal. You're using medkits, standard stuff. One thing I noticed was, towards the end of the game, there's a sequence where you're going down this long ladder, and it just really reminded me of Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3, and that's all I could think of when I was going down this progressively long ladder, just listening to music, and it was like a minute straight of that. One thing I was impressed by was the dynamic environment that the game had. So it's a theme park setting. That's what made it so possible for it to be so diverse. Personal favorite area was the arcade area, and it's a safe area. It's a very bright area. Once you turn the power on, you got to enjoy the space without a large sense of urgency. But speaking of sense of urgency, I felt like the soundtrack kept the sense of urgency throughout the game, and you knew when trouble was just around the corner. The sound effects, especially for those tall skeletons, was a bone-chilling kind of sound effect when you knew they were there. But my favorite sound in the game or song was the savoring music where you're by the campfire. It just felt very comforting, and also there was kind of a sweet little message displayed at the fireplace when you go to save. I also want to talk about some fun details that I noticed in the game, that being if you walk all the way down the hall after you enter the park, you'll see a cool attraction called Cosmic Future, but it was never produced in the game. That attraction never came to light. It seemed like something that I would like to have seen. Due to the activity going on in Crow Country, it never got to be finished. Another detail is that there's more and more traps throughout the game. So these monsters, what have you, they're not placing them. It's interesting to see that the traps progressively get more intricate. It's not just these monsters that want you to go away. There's another entity aside from them. Also notice that when you beat the Murder of Crows difficulty, you get a crow outfit, which you can actually combine with the Zap Girl outfit if you just go into settings as you have the Zap Girl outfit equipped. The cosmetics and the fact that you could combine them, I thought that was very cool. There's also a reference to the movie The Shining, and that'll be in the room where you meet Coleman. Another detail that I liked was 2106 being written in blood as the main form of communication from these guests. That number will be very important later, as you'll see. Another detail was that Marvin does not talk to you in the dark when you have your flashlight on, but it was funny. He covers his face if you walk up to him and you try to talk to him. He's like, turn it off, you know. But if you walk up to him, start talking to him as you have your light off, you can just flicker it on in front of him and he just keeps covering his face. Another detail that was pretty cool to see was there is a campfire in the office, the Crow's office, and it's to celebrate finding these roots that are important to the story. Him and his dad found it, so that was just something cool to see. I want to talk about the characters now. Our main character, Mara, she's on the hunt to find Crow. She is a resourceful character, but also considerate. For example, she only took one medkit. In an abundance of those medkits, she would only take one so that others could have access to heals. She's also a sentimental kind of character. I love how she recalled the key items she found towards the end of the game. And also, she has to pep talk herself to create confidence. This is on her way to the scene, like on the way to the park, but it'll make sense. You'll be able to understand why she's doing this once you understand the plot. Remember, she's not allowed to smoke. It says that every time you approach one of those machines, the cigarette machines. Edward Crow. This man is mysterious. He communicates only through the phone. He's the founder of the Crow Country. He's a sentimental and a family man as well. He's seen as the main villain in the game. He also has a gold statue of his late wife, so that's why I said he was a sentimental and family man. He cares about his family. Julie is a lawyer. She's quite a smartass, but she's there to serve for papers. She's determined to bring Crow to justice by any means. Coleman is another character that I want to talk about. He is also quite a smartass. He's kind of just like, he puts people through riddles. He wants them to think. He's always collected, and he always has his arms crossed, and he's probably the most calm out of all the characters in this entire game. Never really breaks character. And now I want to talk about someone named Marvin, kind of the opposite of the rest of these characters. He just covers up tracks. He's probably the one responsible for all the traps, and yeah, screw this guy, he's kind of just a D-bag. Natalie is Edward Crow's daughter. She just wants to save her dad, even though she knows what he's doing is bad. Her dad did get her some great shoes. Unfortunately, she never really gets them because Mara just takes them in the middle of the game. But I don't think she was missing out on a birthday present. She kind of missed out on a while ago. Like, I think they were in the trunk for several years, maybe. She can also die if you don't give her an antidote when you meet her. Arthur Mole, he's an aspiring photographer. He's a teenager, but he's injured quite early on. He's the first person you'll meet in this game. Basically, the media doesn't believe that he encountered the guest when he took a picture, so he goes back to the park to get an image closer. But he's attacked, and that's how we meet him injured there. And once you heal him, he'll stay in the car for the rest of the game. Unless you don't heal him, then he will die if you don't provide him heals. Now there's Police Officer Harrison. I thought he kind of looked like Leon Kennedy. I don't know. Maybe. He's a police officer that rides his bike to the scene because his tires were cut. I wonder how that happened. He's basically always a step behind Mara in the investigation. Also, there's Douglas Pike. He's the one who designed the park. You'll never actually get to meet him aside from a recording on a TV. The TV is right next to where he potentially shot himself. You hear a gun go off in the game, and then you open the door and he's laying there dead. So with all these characters introduced, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the plot. What is Agent Mara coming to Crow Country for? Let's look at what's going on at this amusement park. The first encounter that Mara has is with an injured Arthur Mole, a teenage wannabe photographer looking for a hit with the media. Mara gives him a med kit and he goes to wait in Mara's car while Mara investigates. Mara will find out about the guest when going into the lounge through the utility corridor, and it's a chilling encounter. Mara will then go to the fairy pond to collect the bronze key, which that'll get her to the haunted hilltop where Julie is. Julie is just a lawyer assigned to the case involving the park. She's seen banging on the utility corridor. She's there to serve Vapors to Edward Crow. Mara will go through the crypt to make it to the room that Julie is aiming for. Encounters a big monster to get there, but she makes it. And connected to this corridor is the holding cell, which will be important later. This is where the next key item is also found in that corridor. It's the crank handle. The handle will allow Mara to acquire many key items. That will be the jewel, which leads to getting the chain. The chain lets her get the mask. Once she gets the mask, she uses that to get the trident. Use the trident to get the silver key. But on the way to the restaurant where you grab the silver key, Mara will meet Marvin, who appears to be a creep. Marvin is a weirdo. With the silver key, Mara can restore power in the arcade. She plays some games, and she gets the computer access card, which will let her get into computers around the map. She can also use this key to meet Tolman. He's got a riddle waiting for her. She can now get to the underground area. Once she solves Tolman's riddle, she can cut the roots downstairs. These roots contain gold that Edward Crow is harvesting. They have a mine in Brazil, and Marvin is covering up where they're getting all of this gold from by having a mine in Brazil. So they're going through a complicated process just so that no eyes are looked at them in any weird way. She'll cut the roots downstairs. She will also turn off the steam that is blocking the way into the panel room for the boat ride. Mara will find her way into the theater. She gets the gold key from the fairy's head that is sitting on the stage. She can do this in two ways. She can use the flamethrower you get in the train room by the beginning of the game, or use an acid bottle, which you have to go to Haunted Hilltop to get the acid bottle, and then downstairs you can fill it with acid. You either need the flamethrower or the acid bottle. Get the gold key, go through the theater room, and you shoot the fairy's head, and then either burn the gel that is surrounding the gold key or melt it with acid. Of the gold key so that you can take a boat ride. You open the control room for the boat ride. You will later find Julie stuffed in a crate. You let her out, and she is claiming that she doesn't know how it happened, really. She doesn't think it was a guest. Julie from that location can help you by controlling the boat ride. You go on the other side, you get in the boat. You ride to the whale room where you can grab the battery. You will charge that up to move the crow out of the way to get into the central underground area. When you get back from the whale room, once Julie has helped you, she is missing again, leaving the bloodstain behind. So you'll charge the battery downstairs in the corner areas to place in the large crow in the center of the map. And once you put the battery in the crow, you can now go down to the central underground area. While Mara is collecting all these key items, she will meet Officer Harrison, who has rode a bike to the park since his tires were slashed. I wonder how. You also meet Natalie Crow by Edward Crow's office. Didn't really mention these two that much. They don't really help her a ton, but they're kind of scattered around the map at times while you're collecting these items. Also, Crow will communicate through the blue telephones that are in many of the rooms, but he is just super mysterious throughout the game. Harrison really just wants Mara to get to safety, and Natalie doesn't want Mara to kill her father. We'll say Harrison always finds clue after Mara. He's not as clever as Mara. Funny enough, he does make it to the central underground first because there's a root puzzle, but Mara's not able to solve it. This is connected by the corners of the railways, but unfortunately he was murdered, and it was not by the guest. Rather, he died to a gunshot. We'll find out who done it soon, as when Mara goes to the end of the next room, Marvin is behind her, holding her and Tolman at gunpoint. I love how at this part of the game, Tolman is just like, put that thing down. He's just calm and collected. Marvin is always shaky, especially in this moment. He refuses to let in. He's adamant on killing those two as well. But a rattling in the vent is heard, and Marvin thinks that Mara or Tolman may be playing a trick on him. Then the vent bursts open and sends Marvin plummeting to his death. Julie pops her head out of the vent, and you just kind of think it's really a fitting end for Marv, as he stuffed Julie in the crate earlier, trying to keep her and everyone else quiet. Also, when you're at the end of the game, going to the central area, there's gunshots shooting at you. So I believe that's 99% Marv's doing, just shooting at you, as he's also probably setting those traps. Sadly though, Harrison wasn't able to escape Marvin's evil judgment. Mara sends Julie and Tolman to make sure that all the people that Mara has helped in the past, Arthur Mole, and Natalie Crow, that she wants to make sure they're okay while she settles her business with Mr. Crow. She will go down that ladder that I was talking about, where I can take a shower, removing the purple dye from her hair, and it will reveal that she is a brunette. It's revealed that Mara's actual name is Elaine. He only allows Elaine to come in once she has picked up all the vials he has on the desk. Elaine picks up the vials and remembers how she got here with all the key items. She spreads them out on the desk where the vials were. Crow also has an analysis of all the people involved in that room. They're posted on the wall. And also he has a letter in another room with his hazmat suit left for Natalie. But Elaine decides not to read it as she's not the intended audience. Elaine meets with an infected Crow, not the bird, but Mr. Edward Crow, standing in front of a green pool, and he explains that doctors would not be able to find a cure for the infection, so he did not pay for Elaine's bills. So you remember Julie was there to serve Ed papers because she is Elaine's family lawyer. She's trying to bring him to justice. He's kind of taking matters into his own hands. He thinks he's the one that can solve the cure of the infection. Elaine was the first person to be attacked by a guest. She is infected by them. You remember the holding cell by the haunted hilltop? That holding cell is where Edward Crow kept the first guest that appeared. He was capable of slight speech, the first guest. The door was left open at just the wrong time for Elaine to get attacked. That's how Elaine came here to investigate. She was attacked by the first guest at the park. The green bowl that Crow is in front of is connected to the other side. The guests come from a year that has been posted all across the map, the year 2106. 2106 has been a key piece of information throughout the game, and finally the audience is aware as to why we see this written everywhere from the guest. This game is about time travel, which I love time travel and sci-fi, so that was one of the reasons why I really love this game. But a side note, there's a globe in the haunted manor, and once the guests are able to get in, the globe is now set on fire. I think this means that the end of the world is more than likely global warming. Crow has found a cure, and it's in the vials that Elaine has collected for him. Crow is just short one vial to have enough for everyone. He also reveals that he's not going to take it, and that everyone else can have one. But this is sort of a way for Edward Crow to atone for his actions, but Crow does want to see what's on the other side, so he enters the pool, but wants Elaine to kill him if he resurfaces. Elaine is then forced to face the monstrified Crow, Edward Crow, of course, to the death, and she wins. When Crow is about to tell Elaine what's on the other side, she claims that she does not care, and Monster Crow asks her to finish the job.